A werewolf shifter romance audiobook written by Katherine Stewart. Prologue. The scent of damp earth and agitated wolf filled Isla Vale's nostrils. It was thick with the tension of the lunar convergence. Moonlight, sharp as a blade, glinted off the ancient monolith in the distance. This night was meant for celebration, for pack unity under the benevolent gaze of the full moon. For Isla, daughter of the Silvermoon pack, a lineage steeped in forgotten mystics, attuned to the ethereal. It was rapidly becoming a nightmare. Her focus narrowed. Not on the festivities. It was on a dark shape near the monolith. Liam. He'd promised to meet her. A knot of unease tightened in her stomach. For weeks, his voice, usually a soothing balm, had instead woven tales of old werewolf lore. He'd particularly lingered on the goodbye mark. He painted it as a powerful act of reclaiming one's spirit after betrayal, a severance that purified the soul. His words now echoed in her mind, a seductive, dangerous whisper promising release. She clutched the rough leather bracelet on her wrist, a gift from Liam. The familiar feel of it a stark contrast to the betrayal blossoming in her heart. A sharp, cruel laugh sliced through the night. Isla's head snapped up. There, beneath the ancient, gnarled oak, Liam stood with another she-wolf. Seraphina, her rival. Seraphina, from a neutral, influential pack, was a vision of sleek confidence. Her hand rested far too comfortably on Liam's arm. Liam's eyes, when he met Isla's across the distance, were devoid of apology, a flicker of cold amusement, the casual dismissal. It cut through Isla's shock like a knife. This wasn't a casual dalliance. This was a public, calculated humiliation designed to shatter her. A cold weight settled in Isla's chest. It was rapidly replaced by a searing, white-hot fury. It wasn't just the public shame. It was the chilling realization of how utterly manipulated she'd been. Every whispered story, every shared dream, every seemingly innocent conversation, now twisted into a sickening tapestry of deceit. Her hands clenched into fists, nails biting into her palms. A raw, unfamiliar power hummed beneath her skin, a restless energy from her Silvermoon lineage. It reacted to the profound emotional agony. It felt wild, chaotic, barely contained, no more. A voice roared inside her, a primal, untamed beast awakening. Liam had sought to break her, but she would reclaim herself. His words about the goodbye mark echoed again. Now, a defiant battle cry. She would sever this connection, purge the poison, reclaim her spirit. She would show him he hadn't won. Her eyes, usually soft brown, sharpened. They reflected the cold, distant gleam of the moon. Her gaze locked onto the ancient monolith, a place of power, a place where old magic still lingered. It was time. The serpent's whisper. The air, still holding the damp chill of pre-dawn, carried Liam's scent. It mixed with the pine needles on the forest floor, a familiar comfort. He sat beside Isla, their knees almost touching. His voice, a low, warm rumble, filled the quiet. "You know, Isla," he murmured, picking up a smooth river stone. "Our ancestors had a way to truly move on." And then he tossed the stone into the nearby stream, making gentle ripples. She leaned closer, because his stories always made her feel safe, cherished. "The goodbye mark?" she asked, her voice soft. She traced the rough leather bracelet on her wrist. He'd given it to her on their first moonlit walk. A simple, sweet thing. Her world felt right when she was with him. In fact, she'd never felt so completely seen before Liam. He nodded, his gaze drifting to the distant, towering monolith. "It's a powerful ritual, Luna." His easy use of Luna always made her chest swell, even though she was just an alpha's daughter. Soon after, he painted a vivid picture. If someone truly broke your heart, betrayed your very soul, you'd bite them. Not to hurt, but to sever the deepest connection. It purifies you, sets your spirit free. What followed was a detailed account. He described the ancient practice with a storyteller's flair, making it sound like a beautiful act of reclaiming oneself. He even hinted at a hidden, deeper power that only the Silvermoon, her own pack, could truly unlock. He said it was because their magic was more attuned to spiritual bonds. Was this why he told her so many old tales? She wondered, but pushed the thought away. She shivered slightly, even though the morning sun was beginning to warm the forest. Sounds painful, she whispered, thinking of the bite, of the raw emotion it would take. More importantly, it sounded like a heavy burden. Only to the betrayer, Liam corrected, his hand gently covering hers. His touch was warm, so comforting. For the one betrayed, it's like shedding a dead skin, a true release. He looked into her eyes then, his gaze intense. If anyone ever truly hurt you, Isla, remember this. You have the power to break free. You deserve that. And then he squeezed her hand, a soft, encouraging squeeze. He made her feel strong, even when she felt vulnerable. Just like that, a faint, unheard chime from his pocket broke the moment. He frowned slightly. Duty calls, Luna, always. He gave her a quick, almost too quick kiss on the forehead. See you at the convergence tonight, okay? Without another word, he was gone, a blur of shadow fading into the trees. She watched him go, a familiar twinge of neglect settling in her chest. He often left quickly, because his work for the council was so important. Still, the quick departures sometimes made her feel a little left out. Maybe it was fate, she thought. Later that day, the lunar convergence buzzed with 1,000 wolf scents. Pine, damp earth, simmering tensions. Isla moved through the crowd, a forced smile on her face. Her goal? To feel connected, to absorb the pack's strength. But beneath the surface, an undercurrent of unease hummed. She overheard hushed voices, Silvermoon elders huddled together like wary deer. The Thornefall alliance is growing too bold, one elder murmured, his voice tight. These ancient treaties. They're a thin shield. His words were heavy. Another elder, a wise-looking old she-wolf named Lyra, sighed. It's not just land they covet. It's something deeper. Something we swore to protect. Isla's ears strained, but the words drifted away, lost in the murmur of the crowd. In fact, the air felt thick with a sense of foreboding, because the Thornefall and Silvermoon packs had been rivals for centuries. Not just rivals, but sworn enemies. Their histories were written in blood, painted on old maps with disputed territories. Isla's parents had always spoken of Thornefall with a mixture of fear and disdain. They believed the Thornefall were too rigid, too focused on raw power and control, unlike the free-spirited Silvermoon. And what exactly were they sworn to protect, she wondered, an open loop of curiosity forming in her mind. As she navigated the throng, a sudden chill washed over her. Her wolf instincts, usually a quiet hum, flared. Her heart skipped a beat. Across the clearing, near the ancient monolith, a figure stood. Tall, broad, dominant. It was Kade Thorne, the alpha heir of the Thornefall pack. He moved with the effortless grace of a predator, his eyes, even from this distance, burning with an intensity that pulled at something deep inside her. It felt like a magnet, pushing against a magnet. His scent, even faint, carried the stark, earthy tang of pine and cold stone, unlike the sweet, familiar scents of her own pack. It was alien. Yet even so, a strange shiver went through her. The moment their eyes locked, the world seemed to narrow. Not for long, just a breath. His golden eyes, bright as molten gold, pierced through the distance. Her soul answered with a jolt, a primal recognition that resonated like a plucked, discordant string. It was confusing. It was frightening. And just like that, the connection snapped, leaving her cold. Her first thought? Enemy. Her instincts surged, telling her to run. Her heart pounded so loudly in her chest she thought everyone must hear it. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't shake the feeling of those eyes. Soon after, Kade Thorne turned away, dismissing her. Her breath hitched. A sting of irrational hurt, even though she hated his pack, pricked her. It was because the animosity between their packs ran deeper than logic. It was in their very blood. Later, as she tried to focus on the festivities, she saw Liam again. He was laughing easily with Seraphina, their heads close. Too close. And that's why a cold knot of despair began to form in Isla's stomach. The earlier suspicion about Liam, dismissed, now resurfaced. This time, it burned hotter, sharper. The moon hung full and heavy in the sky, a silent, all-seeing eye. Its light, usually a source of comfort for Isla, now felt like a spotlight on her humiliation. She stood near the edge of the convergence grounds, the festive noises a dull roar in her ears. Her heart beat a painful rhythm against her ribs, because every beat reminded her of what she'd just witnessed. Liam and Seraphina. They were still together. Now they were even closer. He was stroking Seraphina's hair, his fingers lingering, his head bowed as if sharing a secret. A soft, intimate scene. Isla's entire body went rigid. A cold wave of shock washed over her, followed by a burning, incandescent fury. The casual dismissal from Liam earlier, it had been a hint, a warning. But this was outright blatant betrayal. It wasn't just a shattered heart, it was her dignity, her trust, her entire world. Her thoughts spun. All those stories Liam told her, about the goodbye mark, about reclaiming your spirit, about the monolith's power. They flooded her mind, now feeling less like shared folklore and more like carefully placed explosives, timed to explode. Not only that, but they detonated right inside her soul. She remembered the feeling of him explaining the ritual, how she'd felt safe and strong then. What a lie. She felt it, clear as day. She'd been a puppet, dancing on his strings. Deep down, she knew the truth. He'd planned this. He'd wanted her here. He'd wanted her to see. A choked sound escaped her throat. Fury propelled Isla forward, a blind, primal urge. She didn't know what scared her more. Liam's betrayal or the raw, untamed power churning inside her, ready to burst. Her wolf, usually quiet and gentle, now pressed forward, a snarl rising in her throat. Her body moved on instinct, because she had to reclaim something. Anything. She spotted Liam's leather jacket, slung carelessly over a low branch near the ancient monolith. A dark shape in the gloom. It called to her. She didn't hesitate. As if pulled by a string, she lunged, her teeth bared. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop herself. This was for her. This was for every whispered lie, every fake smile. The moment her teeth sank into the rough leather, a jolt, not pain, but pure, raw energy, slammed through her. It wasn't the sting of a severing ritual. Instead, it was an elemental explosion of blinding golden light, a power that roared through her veins, seizing her soul. This was far more than a goodbye. This was a lock clicking into place not gently, but with the force of a supernova. Her world tilted, her heart pounded. As if the world narrowed, she looked up, her vision momentarily overwhelmed. Into the blazing, shocked golden eyes of Kade Thorne. His rigid face, usually unreadable, was contorted in surprise. His scent, earthy and dominant, now exploded in her senses. It wrapped around her, binding her. The golden mark on her wrist flared, burning bright, and she felt an answering burn on his shoulder, a physical connection. Not just a bond, but the bond. And just like that, everything changed. Her name hung in the air, a silent, primal scream from his lips. Mine. What's worse, she knew it. The primal scream. The golden light faded, leaving Isla's eyes watering, her vision blurry. A metallic taste filled her mouth. But then, the raw, aching presence of a bond, something vast and undeniable, slammed into her soul. It vibrated, a deep, resonant hum, right through her bones. She gasped, a sound torn from her throat. Her gaze snapped to Kade Thorne. He stood frozen, golden light still flickering in his depths like embers. His scent, moments ago alien, now wrapped around her. It was heavy. It was primal. It was his. And her wolf screamed, "Mine!" Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through the shock. This wasn't a goodbye mark. This was wrong. Her stomach churned. What she saw in his eyes was raw, animalistic possession, a burning, golden awareness of her. It was a terrifying mirror of the instinctive pull she felt toward him, which meant a horrifying truth settled in. He was her mate, her destined mate, the enemy. As if a string snapped inside her, Isla spun. Her body moved on instinct. Run! She had to get away. She pushed through the growing crowd, their shocked whispers a buzzing in her ears. She bolted into the dark woods, the scents of pine and damp earth blurred as she ran, desperate. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of terror. She didn't know what scared her more, the terrifying bond that screamed his name in her soul, or the rage she knew would come from her pack, because this bond defied everything. Behind her, Kade Thorne let out a raw, guttural cry. It was a sound of agonizing recognition, a sound of ownership. It vibrated through her, even at a distance, because their souls were now tied together. She stumbled, catching herself on a rough tree trunk. She risked a glance back. What she saw sent another wave of terror through her. Kade was collapsing, his powerful body shaking. The golden light intensified around him, a blinding beacon. Not only that, but the sound of his wolf, a desperate primal howl, ripped through the night, echoing her own internal terror. Soon after, she heard them. Footsteps, voices, the distinct urgent calls of the council's elite trackers closing in. They weren't just looking for Kade, they were looking for her. The very air thickened with magic. She heard Elder Valerius's sharp, commanding voice. "Find the girl! Contain the bond!" This was bad. Really bad. As a result, Isla pushed harder, branches whipping at her face. She had to disappear. She just had to. The council's verdict. The moon still hung in the sky, a cold, indifferent eye by the time Kade found Isla. He'd tracked her by the undeniable scent of their bond, by the invisible thread that pulled him. She was huddled deep inside a hollow log, trying to hide her scent, her body shivering not just from cold, but from sheer terror. His large shadow fell over her hiding place. She flinched. "Come out," he growled, his voice rough, raspy, but laced with an undeniable possessiveness that made her skin prickle. "Don't make this harder." His golden eyes, still blazing with the aftermath of their bond, seemed to pierce right through the wood. He was furious. She knew it. Isla tried to burrow deeper, a desperate, childish urge. But then, a cold wave of realization washed over her. She couldn't run. She couldn't escape. Her wolf, usually so gentle, whimpered deep inside her chest. Instead, she slowly crawled out, her body aching, her defiance a brittle shield. Her face was tight. She would fight him. She would fight this. What followed was humiliating. He grabbed her arm, not gently, and pulled her. The golden mark on her wrist pulsed, burning where his fingers wrapped around her. It was a fiery leash. He dragged her through the forest, back towards the convergence grounds, towards the stern faces of the council. Because he was an alpha, and he was strong. She tried to pull away, but he was too powerful. The council chamber felt cold, heavy with unspoken judgment. Elder Valerius stood at the head, his face a mask of grave authority. Around him, other elders, their faces grim, watched them. "Isla Vale!" Valerius's voice boomed, chilling her to the bone. "And Kade Thorne, you have violated ancient treaties." "Violated?" Isla spat, her voice trembling despite her anger. "He dragged me here." Her anger was a wild storm. "I didn't choose this." She looked at Kade, hoping for, what? An apology? He simply stared ahead, jaw tight. "Silence, girl," Valerius snapped, his eyes narrowing. The bond is undeniable. A month you will spend in the bonding trial, at the sealed estate. He pointed to an ancient dark scroll. To prevent a war, to assess your dangerous connection. His words sounded official, but Isla sensed a deeper current. His gaze flickered to the golden mark on her wrist, a hungry, calculating gleam in his eyes. He wasn't trying to foster a union. He was quarantining a potential apocalypse. She felt it, clear as day. They were trapped. The gilded cage. The magic of the sealed estate pressed down on Isla like a heavy blanket. The wards snapped shut behind them with a low hum, a sound that vibrated in her bones. This wasn't just a building, it was a prison. A gilded cage, filled with antique furniture and rich tapestries, but still a cage. She inhaled deeply. The air inside felt stale, trapped. It smelled like dust and old secrets. So, Kade's voice cut through the silence, sharp as a dagger. He stood across the grand hall, his arms crossed, his golden eyes narrowed. "Welcome to our new home, Luna." His tone was mocking. He clearly hated this as much as she did. Isla bristled, her wolf stirring with defiance. "Don't call me Luna," she snapped, her voice tight. "I'm not your Luna. This isn't real." She gestured wildly between them, her hand flying to her pulsing wrist. The golden mark pulsed, warm beneath her skin, mocking her words. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't deny its throbbing reality. He scoffed. "Oh, it's real." He took a step towards her, and her instincts screamed. Her body tensed, ready to bolt. The air thickened between them, crackling with an almost visible energy. He stopped just a few feet away. His scent, pine and cold stone, but now laced with a raw, undeniable masculine scent, filled her senses. It was overwhelming. She swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. His presence was like a heavy blanket. "You feel it, don't you?" he murmured, his voice lower, closer. His eyes locked on hers. The pull, the fire beneath your skin. Isla wanted to scream no, but her body betrayed her. Her mark tingled. She felt it, clear as day, the magnetic drag towards him. It was embarrassing. "This is wrong," she repeated, her voice trembling. Her Silvermoon magic, usually a subtle hum, surged erratically, a chaotic energy that made her hands tingle. She struggled to control it, because if she couldn't control herself, she would never get out. But then, a strange thing happened. As if fate demanded it, Kade's strong, grounded presence through their bond, a constant, unwanted hum, actually helped steady her wild energy. It was like he was a quiet anchor in her stormy sea. His gaze flickered to her trembling hands. "Your power. It's wild," he observed, not with judgment, but almost curiosity. "Mine grounds it." His words hung in the air. This was their new reality. They were bound, and they were trapped, tangled threads of destiny. Life in the estate felt like living inside a tightly wound spring. Every movement, every breath Isla took, reverberated through the shared bond with Kade. She'd wake up, her heart racing, only to realize it was Kade's restless energy she felt across the room. His scent, a constant earthy hum, clung to her. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape him. The sheer force of their connection was exhausting. She stood by a tall, arched window, gazing out at the vast green grounds. What's worse, her Silvermoon magic, usually subtle, now surged inside her, making her skin prickle with an almost constant awareness. It was chaotic, untamed, and just like that, a wave of Kade's frustration, sharp as a thorn, pulsed through her. She gasped, clutching her head. Kade stood near the fireplace, his broad shoulders slumped slightly. "You okay?" he asked, his voice rough. He was watching her, because he felt it too. Isla snapped. "Just peachy, thanks for asking. You try having someone else's mood swings crashing through your head all day." Her voice trembled. She knew it wasn't his fault, but the frustration had to go somewhere. He grimaced. "Believe me, Luna, your enthusiasm isn't exactly a picnic either." Still, his eyes held a surprising flicker of concern. It was strange. But then, the chime of a doorbell echoed through the mansion. A caretaker, a grim-faced wolf with watchful eyes, opened the heavy front doors. And there stood Liam. His smile was wide. So charming. Too charming. "Isla!" Liam exclaimed, stepping inside. His scent, sweet, like honey and lies, filled the air. "I was so worried about you." He tried to approach, but Kade subtly shifted, blocking his path. Isla's wolf bristled. She could see his forced concern. Through the bond, her senses were heightened. Liam's scent didn't smell like worry. It smelled like calculated calmness, like a predator stalking prey. An open loop of unease twisted in her stomach. "Liam," she said, her voice flat. "What are you doing here?" "I came to apologize," he said, looking sincere. Too sincere. "I was a fool. My behavior caused all this." He looked at the caretaker. "I've confessed my philandering to the council." What followed was a practiced speech. He spoke of regret, of wanting to make amends. Meanwhile, Isla watched him. Every word felt hollow. Every gesture rehearsed. She could almost feel the deception radiating off him. This was more than just a guilty conscience. This was a deeper game. Cracks in the cage. After Liam left, the air in the estate felt heavy. Isla's mind spun with questions. His confession hadn't felt real. She brought it up to Kade. "Did you feel it?" she asked, pacing. "Liam, he was acting." Kade grunted, watching her. "He's smooth, good at deception because he's practiced." His words were blunt. "You felt it because of the bond, didn't you? It heightens your senses." He was perceptive. She nodded, a little surprised by his understanding. "My Silvermoon magic. It's stronger now, but it's so wild." And then, she demonstrated, a small burst of golden light flaring around her hands. It flickered erratically, like a trapped firefly. She quickly closed her fists because she feared losing control. "Let me see," Kade murmured, taking a step closer. The air thickened. He held out his hand, palm up. "Try again." His eyes, the color of warm honey, held a strange mix of command and curiosity. Isla hesitated, but then a strange trust bloomed between them. As if fate demanded it, she placed her shaking hands in his. His skin felt warm, solid. She tried again. The golden light bloomed, stronger this time. It pulsed, but instead of flickering wildly, it gently swirled, anchored by Kade's touch. His presence, usually irritating, suddenly felt like a lifeline. He wasn't just Kade Thorne, the rival alpha. He was a rock. "Your power is like water," Kade observed, his voice soft. "Flowing, wild. Mine is earth, solid. When they meet, they balance." He gently squeezed her hands. "Don't fear it." The quiet understanding in his voice was like a gentle rain. Later they explored the estate. They walked through dusty halls filled with old portraits and forgotten relics, because the estate felt like it had a secret. The bond between them hummed, pulling them towards a heavy, ornate door. It was sealed with ancient, shimmering wards, pulsating faintly. "These are old," Kade murmured, running a finger over the magic. "Suppression wards, strong ones." Isla felt a tingling in her fingertips. "Something powerful is behind here," she whispered. Her wolf instinct surged. "Something the council doesn't want found." The caretakers were always watchful. But then, as if summoned, one of them appeared, eyes darting to the door. "Nothing to see here, Luna," he said, his voice flat. "Just a storage room." His gaze lingered on Isla's mark. "Stay away from it." And just like that, the tension broke. Isla's suspicion deepened. A sharp alarm shrieked through the estate, tearing through the quiet afternoon. Isla's heart leaped into her throat. Kade, already on edge, snapped his head up. "What was that?" He growled, his golden eyes scanning the high windows. The wards, they felt thin. Something had breached them. Without warning, a section of the ornate ceiling cracked. Dust and plaster rained down. A smaller rogue wolf, ragged, desperate, and driven mad by hunger, crashed through the weakened ward, landing with a snarl in the grand hall. It darted towards Isla, eyes blazing with feral madness. Isla reacted on instinct. Her Silvermoon power surged, raw and untamed, a shield of chaotic golden light flaring around her. But the wolf was fast, too fast. It lunged, claws extended. Isla screamed. Before she could move, Kade was there. He moved like a blur, a true alpha in action. He threw his powerful body in front of her, a sickening thud. The rogue wolf's claws raked across Kade's shoulder. A sharp, searing pain exploded through Isla's own shoulder through their bond. A gasp. He staggered back, a low growl rumbling deep in his chest. His wolf surged forward. "Kade!" Isla cried, her voice trembling. The golden mark on her wrist burned, aching with his pain. Her fear was a cold wave. But then, something inside her shifted. His sacrifice. It wasn't forced by the bond. It was chosen. For her. As if fate demanded it, her chaotic Silvermoon energy, usually so wild, flowed with Kade's pain, seeking to soothe. It pulsed into his wound, a gentle warmth, and the golden light around them intensified. His thorn strength, usually rigid, now blended with her raw power. Together they surged forward, a unified force. They moved as one. Kade grabbed the rogue wolf, his powerful jaws snapping. Isla, channeling her wild magic through their shared connection, sent a concussive blast that stunned the beast. Together, they drove it back through the breach, sealing the opening with a desperate, unified surge of their combined power. In the quiet that followed, Kade leaned against the wall, breathing hard, his shoulder bleeding freely. Isla rushed to him, her hands hovering, wanting to help. His scent, hot and musky with exertion, filled her senses. You saved me," she whispered, her throat tight. He nodded, his gaze meeting hers. His golden eyes, filled with pain, held something else too. A raw acknowledgement. A deep, unspoken understanding. He didn't push her away. Instead, he simply allowed her to be close. The space between them burned, not with anger, but with a complex mix of shared trauma, nascent trust, and a terrifying, undeniable connection that transcended pack rivalry. The Scholar's Plea. The uneasy truce between Isla and Kade, born from shared peril, solidified into a determined partnership. They moved through the estate's vast, dusty rooms with a new purpose. Their goal was simple: break into that hidden library. Because Isla knew the answers were there. Kade, ever the strategist, studied the mansion's blueprints. Old, faded scrolls found tucked away in a neglected drawer. "The wards are strongest here," he'd point, his finger tracing glowing lines on the paper. "Around this section of the West Wing, it feels suppressed." He frowned. His scent, usually dominant, now carried a hint of thoughtful concentration. Isla, guided by the tingling of her mark, felt a strong pull towards a specific alcove. She pressed her hand against a smooth, cold stone wall. The golden mark on her wrist throbbed. "It's here," she whispered, her voice almost breathless. "The magic is thinnest right here." The air around them grew heavy. Not only that, but a faint, almost musical hum resonated from the stone, a sound only she seemed to hear. What followed was days of careful work. They experimented, using Isla's raw Silvermoon energy and Kade's focused thorn strength, trying to unravel the wards. It was like picking apart an ancient, invisible knot. But then a subtle trap snapped. A caretaker appeared, his eyes too sharp, his smile too tight. He was always watching. He didn't say anything. Instead, he simply reinforced the warding spells, making them stronger. A cruel, silent game. Isla felt a cold dread, because the council didn't want them to find anything. But then, as if fate had a hand in it, Isla's fingers brushed against a loose stone in the alcove. Hidden beneath it, a small, worn leather pouch. Inside, a single dried moon petal and a tiny rolled parchment. The parchment was old, so old. It read, "Seek the truth beyond the elders' lies. The moon and thorn are bound by more than hate. The prophecy is not a curse. It is a choice." It was unsigned. Yet, the message felt like a whispered plea across centuries. It also told them the council elders weren't all the same. There was another side. "A scholar," Kade murmured, his eyes grim, tracing the faded ink. "There's a faction of old seers within the council. They were silenced years ago because they believed in different interpretations of the old texts. This small discovery intensified their purpose. The air thickened. They knew they were close. The prophecy unveiled. The heavy, ornate door to the library groaned on ancient hinges. Dust motes danced in the slivers of moonlight that pierced the gloom. The air inside felt thick, like stale secrets. Isla stepped in first, her Silvermoon senses overwhelmed by the sheer volume of forgotten magic. Kade followed, his presence a solid anchor in the swirling spiritual energy. His scent, grounding and strong, helped her focus. They weren't just looking for books, they were looking for answers. And just like that, Isla's gaze landed on a pedestal in the center of the room. Upon it rested a single, leather-bound journal, glowing with a soft, pulsing light. It called to her. Her golden mark tingled. Isla reached for it, her fingers trembling. The moment she touched it, a wave of ancient knowledge flooded her mind. It wasn't just words, it was visions. Kade gripped her arm, grounding her as she swayed. He felt it too, through their bond. Together they opened the journal. The first page was stark, its ink dark. "When the silver moon bleeds on the black thorn, an alpha of two bloods is born. A power to shatter the world, or unite it as one. Keep the moon from the thorn, lest this final fate be sworn." Isla's world tilted. Her heart pounded, a frantic drum. Her pack, Silvermoon, Kade's, Thornefall. The names themselves were in the prophecy. The revelation hit her like a physical blow. Their rivalry wasn't about land or honor, it was a carefully maintained lie. A deliberate separation meant to prevent this from happening. Deep down, she knew the truth. Liam's cruel act, the manipulated goodbye mark, it wasn't an accident. It was the orchestrated spark to light a centuries-old fuse. A wave of despair washed over her. "It was all a lie," she whispered, her voice thin. "Our entire history, our packs, just pawns." She felt the crushing weight of generations of deceit. "We're doomed, aren't we? It says, shatter the world." Kade grabbed her shoulders, his grip firm. His golden eyes, usually so guarded, blazed with a fierce, defiant light. "No!" he growled, his voice raw. "It says shatter the world or unite it. It's a choice, Isla. Our choice." His strength, his unwavering resolve, flowed into her through their bond. It was like a dam holding back her despair. Valerius doesn't want unity. He wants control. He's been manipulating this for generations because he fears our combined power. He wasn't afraid. He was angry. Her despair began to recede, replaced by a cold, steady resolve. She looked at Kade, truly looked at him. He was willing to fight not just for them, but for the very idea of unity. The space between them burned, not with anger, but with a powerful, undeniable connection. They weren't just two wolves, they were two halves of a greater whole. And just like that, everything changed. Their love was now a weapon against destiny. The serpent's visit. The air in the estate suddenly shifted. A coldness seeped in, not from the weather, but from a growing sense of malevolence. Isla felt it first, a prickling on her skin. Kade felt it too, his shoulders tensing. He gently pushed her behind him. His scent, usually grounding, now sharpened with alert readiness. Then, the heavy doors to the mansion swung open without a sound. Elder Valerius stepped inside. He wasn't alone. 2 grim-faced, silent council guards stood behind him. Valerius's eyes, cold and calculating, swept over the grand hall, then landed on Isla and Kade. His gaze lingered on Isla's slightly dusty hands, then the telltale glint of the golden mark on her wrist. He knew. "My dear children," Valerius purred, his voice dripping with false sweetness. "I trust your bonding trial has been illuminating?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "We felt a rather significant surge of energy just now. Rather unsettling." He chuckled, a dry, rustling sound like dead leaves. Isla's breath caught. She could feel Kade's suppressed fury vibrating through their bond. "We found nothing but old dust," Isla lied, her voice shaky, but her wolf pushed defiance into her tone. "The wards are strong." Valerius's smile vanished. "The truth, young Alpha, is what I decide it is." He held Kade's gaze for a long moment. Then he turned to leave. "Remember, children, your pack's fate hangs in the balance." He paused at the door, pulling out a small, ornate communicator. He spoke into it, his voice barely a whisper. But Isla's heightened senses caught Liam's name. A chilling certainty settled in her bones. This wasn't just a threat. This was the final trap. And just like that, the air thickened, breaking the silence. The cold weight of Valerius's threat pressed down on Isla. His words, dripping with false concern, still echoed in the mansion's quiet halls. "Your pack's fate hangs in the balance." It was a chilling promise. Isla paced the grand hall, her golden mark burning with restless energy. Her anger was a sharp, biting wind. She didn't know what scared her more, Valerius's power or the idea of their packs, her Silvermoon and Kade's Thornefall being destroyed because of them. Kade watched her, his expression grim. "We have to act," he stated, his voice a low rumble. His scent, a mix of pine and resolve, filled the air. "He's moving faster than we thought. He's counting on us being broken, on us being scared." Isla stopped, facing him. Her heart pounded. "We expose him," she declared, the words feeling huge. "Tell the council the truth, about the prophecy, about his manipulation." She felt a surge of defiant courage because hiding only made them weaker. "It's risky," Kade countered, his gaze intense. "His influence runs deep. Most of the council are under his thumb, believing his lies about rogue bloodlines and chaos. They fear our power." "But not all of them," Isla pressed, recalling the scholar's cryptic message. "That parchment, the seers. There are others who believe in balance. We have to reach them." Her Silvermoon intuition sang with conviction. She knew it was the only way. What followed was a desperate plan. They worked together, their minds syncing in a way that still amazed Isla. Kade, the strategist, mapped out the council's inner circles, identifying the few elders known for their scholarly pursuits, their quieter wisdom. Meanwhile, Isla, with her amplified Silvermoon magic, focused. Her hands tingled. She channeled her energy, weaving it with Kade's grounded thorn essence. It was like sending a whisper across a roaring chasm because their bond made it possible. Soon after, a fragile message, imbued with the very scent of the ancient journal and the unique hum of their combined power, stretched out. It sought out Elder Lyra, the wise she-wolf Isla had seen at the convergence, and another, Elder Orion, a silent, thoughtful Thornefall Elder Kade trusted implicitly. The message was simple. The prophecy is a choice. The Elder lies. Seek the truth at the final judgment. It was a bold move, a huge risk. But then, as the energy drained from Isla, she felt a faint, almost imperceptible flicker of acknowledgement. It was a faint spark of hope in the vast darkness. "They received it," she whispered, her voice tired but triumphant. Kade squeezed her shoulder, his touch firm. "Then they'll be watching," he replied. "But Valerius will be watching closer." They knew the stakes had just rocketed higher. The trap is sprung. The air thickened. Outside the estate's thick walls, shadows danced. Isla felt it first, a prickling sensation on her skin, a shiver running down her spine. The golden mark on her wrist pulsed erratically. Her wolf stirred, a growl rising in her throat. "Something's coming," she whispered, her eyes darting towards the heavy, ornate doors. Kade was already moving, his alpha senses confirming her warning. His scent, usually calm and strong, now carried a sharp edge of predatory readiness. "They're early," he muttered, pulling her behind a massive stone pillar. A violent crash erupted from the main doors. The ancient oak splintered, blasted inward. Dust and splinters rained down. A wave of attackers poured into the hall. Liam. He stood at the front, his face grim, his eyes cold. He commanded a group of Thornefall warriors, their expressions hard. Not only that, but Seraphina was with them, her gaze like a laser, fixed on Isla. Her hands gripped a shimmering silver blade. "Liam!" Isla cried, her voice tearing. The betrayal was a fresh wound, but seeing him lead this assault, it was a brutal punch to the gut. "What are you doing?" He didn't answer. Instead, he simply nodded to his warriors. They surged forward, a tide of muscle and fury. What's worse, Seraphina let out a high, piercing cry. "You took him from me. Now you'll pay." She charged, the silver blade gleaming. She wasn't just angry. She was consumed by a chilling, personal vendetta. "Isla, behind me!" Kade roared, shoving her further back. His wolf surged forward. His body moved on instinct. He met the first wave of attackers, a blur of golden-eyed fury, his blows precise and powerful. His Thornefall strength, usually rigid, became fluid in battle. Isla, despite the chaos, felt a strange awe. He was a force of nature. The fight exploded. The clang of claws on stone, the snarls, the guttural cries. It filled the hall. Isla's heart pounded, a frantic drum. Her Silvermoon magic flared around her, an uncontrolled storm of golden light. She tried to fight, but the sheer number of attackers was overwhelming. Seraphina, quick as a viper, darted past Kade. Her eyes were fixed on Isla. She lunged. The silver blade caught the moonlight. It was coming for Isla. The price of protection time seemed to slow. Seraphina's silver blade, sharp and deadly, was a glittering streak heading straight for Isla's heart. A cold dread, absolute and paralyzing, stole Isla's breath. She saw it coming. She knew it. Yet, her body froze, rooted to the spot, but then a blur of motion. Kade. He roared, a sound of pure primal fury. He threw his powerful body in front of Isla, shielding her, a sickening thud. The silver blade plunged deep into his shoulder. A gasp, hers, but the agonizing scream of the wound tore through her own chest as well, because their bond shared everything. His scent, rich with pain and hot blood, filled her senses. It was metallic. It was devastating. "Kade!" she shrieked, her voice tearing. He staggered back, his face contorted in agony, but his golden eyes remained locked on Seraphina, burning with raw protectiveness. His wolf surged forward, a guttural growl rumbling from deep in his chest. His blood, thorn blood, dark and rich, bloomed on his tunic, a stark contrast against the rough fabric. In that very moment, as his blood spilled for her, something inside Isla ignited. The golden mark on her wrist flared with blinding intensity. It pulsed with a desperate, healing warmth. And just like that, an answering mark, identical in pattern, burned into Kade's shoulder where the silver blade had struck, searing his flesh. It wasn't just a bond. It was a physical manifestation of their union, sealed in sacrifice. A wave of raw, combined power erupted from them both. It was a maelstrom of golden light. Her Silvermoon magic, usually wild, now flowed with Kade's unwavering strength, seeking balance. He was her anchor. She was his fire. They moved as one. A concussive blast of golden energy, a joint force, slammed into Seraphina, sending her reeling backward, unconscious. Liam's warriors, momentarily stunned by the raw power, hesitated. Kade grabbed Isla's hand, his grip firm despite his pain. "Run!" he snarled, his voice tight. "Now!" His eyes burned with an urgency that left no room for argument. Isla didn't hesitate. She wouldn't leave him. Instead, she helped him. Together, they surged forward, a united front, pushing through the disoriented attackers. With every step he took, with every pulse of their combined energy, they carved a path towards freedom. The air thickened around them. They were bleeding. They were escaping. They were choosing to fight, on the run. The cool night air bit at Isla's exposed skin as they fled. Kade leaned heavily on her, his breath ragged, his scent thick with pain. The golden marks on their bodies pulsed, not with their usual vibrant energy, but with a dull, throbbing ache. They were no longer confined in a gilded cage. They were on the run. Every snap of a twig, every rustle in the leaves, made Isla's heart lurch, because Valerius would be sending everyone after them. They ran for what felt like hours deeper into the forbidden forests, away from known pack territories. Kade's thorn blood, usually so resilient, stained his tunic, a dark, growing stain. "We need to find safe haven," Kade rasped, his voice strained. He stumbled. Isla caught him. His skin felt too hot. His eyes, usually sharp, were glazed with pain. Truth be told, reaching their few potential allies was impossible. Valerius was too fast. She could almost feel the waves of misinformation rippling through the werewolf networks, painting them as dangerous rogues, unstable anomalies. "The bond is tearing them apart," she imagined him whispering to terrified packs. "They must be stopped. For the balance." What's worse, their own golden marks, symbols of their dangerous bond, made them stand out like beacons in the darkness. They couldn't hide. Soon after, she heard the distant howls. Hunters. They were close. Too close. Kade pushed himself harder, but his steps were heavy. "Isla, your power. Control it," he gasped. His words were a sharp reminder. Her Silvermoon magic, usually wild, became erratic under stress. It pulsed, flaring golden, attracting unwanted attention, because it needed Kade's grounding. But Kade was fading. They stumbled into a small, unnamed village, hoping for a moment of respite. But the wolves there, their faces drawn with fear, turned them away. "Rogue! Danger!" a she-wolf shrieked, slamming a heavy door shut. They believed Valerius's lies. The rejection stung. It felt like a punch to her stomach. Not only that, but it crushed a small, desperate hope. Eventually, with Kade growing weaker, they found a small abandoned hunting cabin deep in the woods. It smelled of damp earth and stale wood smoke. It was cold. It was desolate. But it was shelter. As a result, Isla half-carried Kade inside, his large frame collapsing onto the dirt floor. She sank beside him, exhaustion heavy in her limbs. The silence stretched, broken only by Kade's shallow, labored breaths. She felt utterly alone. She had to save him. The dark night of the soul. The small hunting cabin offered no comfort, only a chilling reminder of their desperate situation. Kade lay on the dirt floor, his breathing shallow, his skin burning to the touch. The silver wound on his shoulder, angry and red, now showed streaks of dark infection spreading through his powerful thorn body. Isla's hands trembled as she pressed a cool, damp cloth to his forehead. His scent, usually so strong, was now sickly sweet with fever. "Kade," she whispered, her voice raw with fear. "Please." He didn't respond. His golden eyes, clouded with fever, fluttered open for a moment, then closed. A soft moan escaped his lips. Isla's heart ached. Her Silvermoon magic, usually so responsive, felt useless. She tried to channel warmth, healing energy into his wound, but her power, wild and untamed without Kade's anchoring presence, surged erratically. It flared, then sputtered, making the infection worse, not better. What's worse, her golden mark, usually a beacon of strength, pulsed with a dull, agonizing ache. Her own fear became a suffocating blanket. She didn't know what scared her more, the looming threat of Valerius, or the raw truth that she might be unable to save Kade. Her childhood flashed before her eyes. That time she'd tried to heal her mother's sprained ankle, only to make it ache worse because her Silvermoon magic was too strong, too uncontrolled. She'd always been told it was a gift. But now it felt like a curse. It always seemed to cause more harm than good. "I'm failing him," she thought, the words a cold dagger in her gut. She'd promised to fight for them, to fight for unity. But here she was, her own power a danger. Deep down, she knew the truth. She wasn't an alpha. She was just Isla. Kade stirred, his eyes opening, glazed but lucid for a moment. He reached a trembling hand, finding her cheek. His touch was burning hot. Maybe Valerius was right," he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. "Maybe this bond is only destruction. You could break it. For the Pax, for the world." His words, though weak, were a heavy blow. They cut through her because they spoke her own deepest fear. Isla stared at him, her vision blurring with tears. The thought of breaking the bond, it ripped at her soul, an unbearable pain. Her wolf whimpered. It felt like tearing herself apart. She didn't know what scared her more, losing Kade or enduring a life without the connection that had, despite everything, become a part of her. The goal seemed impossible. A glimmer of the past despair, thick and suffocating, settled over Isla. Kade's words, his suggestion to break the bond, echoed in the silent cabin. It felt like the end. She slumped beside him, her hand gripping his, her thumb tracing the golden mark. Her own energy was fading. All hope seemed lost. The scent of pine and fever filled her nostrils. But then, as if fate whispered, the golden mark on her wrist tingled. Not with pain, not with dread. Instead, it hummed with a faint, insistent warmth. She closed her eyes. Her mind, raw with exhaustion, slipped into a strange, dreamlike state. It wasn't a dream, though. It was a vision. She saw a woman. Her hair, long and silver like moonlight, flowed around her. Her hands glowed with golden light, just like Isla's. This woman was a Silvermoon healer, ancient, powerful. She saw fragmented memories, glimpses of a past, alpha of two bloods, bonded not by choice, but by accident. This ancient pair struggled. The female's power was chaotic. The male's was rigid. Their bond, without balance, had indeed brought destruction. Isla felt the raw despair of that past Luna, her futile attempts to control her own magic, her fear of hurting her mate. Then the vision shifted. The ancient healer, her eyes wise and kind, looked directly at Isla through the mists of time. "Your power is not destructive, child," a voice echoed in Isla's mind, soft as a breeze. "It is untamed. It seeks balance." The healer's hand reached out, gently touching the chest of the male wolf in the vision. "His strength grounds it. Your light guides it. Do not fear your chaos. Embrace your harmony." The vision faded, leaving Isla gasping, her eyes snapping open. Kade. His strong, grounding presence. That was the missing piece. Her power wasn't a curse. It was a river, and Kade was the banks that guided it. Her self-doubt, her belief that she was wrong, that was the true enemy. It was because she had to learn to trust herself and trust him. She felt it, clear as day. Her heart swelled with a fierce, renewed determination. She looked at Kade, his face pale in the dim light, his breath shallow. His hand, still in hers, felt hot. She wasn't a failure. She had a purpose. She had a choice. And she would fight. She would fight for him. She would fight for their bond. She would fight for their future. Her gaze fell on a small, forgotten herbalist's pouch, tucked into a crack in the cabin's rough wall. It smelled faintly of dried roots and desperation. There was still a chance. She knew it, the ancient remedy. The faint scent of dried roots filled the air. Isla, her heart swelling with a fierce, renewed determination, looked at the herbalist's pouch. The ancient healer's vision echoed in her mind. Your power is not destructive. It seeks balance. Kade, pale and still, lay beside her. His shallow breaths were a stark reminder of their race against time. She knew she had to heal him. She had to. She knelt, her fingers trembling as they rummaged through the pouch. She felt it, clear as day, a faint hum from the dried leaves. Her Silvermoon intuition, sharpened by the bond and her recent vision, guided her. She picked out specific plants, their energy resonating in her palms. It felt like she was remembering something long forgotten, because the Silvermoon lineage had always been healers. What followed was a flurry of activity. She chewed a bitter root, rubbing it onto his infected wound. She mixed crushed herbs with a little spit, making a rough poultice. The golden mark on her wrist pulsed with every focused movement, a warm, insistent thrum that seemed to pour strength into her. As a result, the mark on Kade's shoulder, dull moments ago, began to glow with a soft, steady light, a golden fire blooming beneath his skin. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the angry redness around Kade's wound began to recede. The heat from his skin lessened. His breathing deepened, becoming more even. He stirred, his eyelids fluttering. His golden eyes, still a little cloudy, met hers. A slow smile touched his lips, a gentle, grateful smile. His scent, no longer sickly sweet, returned to its strong, familiar pine and cold stone. It filled her with profound relief. Isla, he rasped, his voice weak but clear. He reached out a trembling hand, finding hers. His touch was no longer burning hot. It was warm, comforting. Their bond, which had felt like a painful leash, now felt like a soft, powerful embrace. She felt it, clear as day. Their connection wasn't just fate. It was a choice, a profound, sacred choice. He was her balance. She was his guide. The final gambit, Kade, though still weak, was regaining his strength. His thorn resilience was incredible. We need to go, he stated, his voice now firm. The council is meeting today. Valerius will make his move. His scent, always so grounded, now carried the sharp edge of urgency. Isla nodded. Her own blood sang with renewed purpose. We expose him, she said, her voice steady. We tell them everything, the prophecy, his lies, how he manipulated Liam. She gripped Kade's hand, drawing strength from his warmth, because they were a team now. They sat close, speaking in low voices, their plan taking shape. Kade, the strategist, mapped out the council's specific customs, their formal procedures. We'll need to interrupt, make a scene, make them listen. He spoke of Elder Lyra and Elder Orion, the scholars they had sent the subtle message to. They'll be skeptical, because Valerius is cunning. But they are honorable. They will listen to proof. Isla, eyes closed, channeled their combined energy. Her Silvermoon intuition reached out, stretching across the miles, guiding their subtle, magical message. It was like sending a whisper across a dark, stormy ocean. Not only that, but Kade anchored her, his steady presence grounding her wild power. This message wasn't just words. It was imbued with the energy of their bond, the undeniable truth of their connection. It contained fragments of the seer's journal, coded warnings. What followed was a moment of silence. The tension stretched. Then a faint flicker. A responding hum. It was almost imperceptible. But they felt it. The scholarly elders had received it. They knew they had a chance. It's our only play, Kade murmured, his eyes meeting hers. If we fail, everything is lost. His words were heavy, but his gaze was unwavering. His strength, his unwavering resolve flowed into her. She wasn't scared. Not anymore. She had him, and he had her. They would fight. The race against time. The journey to the council grounds was a race against time. The wind shifted, carrying the faint, distant scent of agitated wolves, Valerius's patrols. Isla felt them, a prickling on her skin. Kade moved with renewed speed, his powerful legs eating up the ground. His shoulders still ached, but the pain was a distant throb, overshadowed by their shared urgency. They moved through the dense forest like shadows, their footsteps light. They dodged a patrol near a winding river hiding among the thick reeds. Kade's stealth, honed by years of alpha training, blended perfectly with Isla's innate Silvermoon ability to quiet her presence. When a lone wolf strayed too close, Kade sent a mental warning, a silent snarl through the bond, and the wolf veered away, uneasy. They were a unified force. As the sky darkened, their pace quickened. The air thickened. The tension grew with every heartbeat. They knew they were cutting it close. "The council hall," Kade said, pointing through the trees. Its imposing structure loomed in the distance. The sounds of a large gathering, muffled but distinct, carried on the wind. What's worse, the golden marks on their bodies pulsed with greater intensity now, almost burning. It was because the proximity to the council's ancient magic, combined with their desperate mission, amplified their bond. Their power was humming. It was growing. "Are you ready?" Isla whispered, her voice trembling, not from fear, but from the immense power surging through her veins. She felt Kade's gaze, strong and steady. "Always," he replied, his voice a low rumble. He squeezed her hand, a firm, reassuring pressure. The space between them burned. This was it, the moment of truth. They moved towards the grand entrance. They burst into the council chamber, interrupting Elder Valerius mid-sentence. The silence roared. All eyes turned to them. They were here. The council chamber fell silent as Isla and Kade burst through the doors. Elder Valerius mid-sentence stopped, his eyes, cold and calculating, fixed on them. A low murmur rippled through the gathered wolves. Isla felt the raw power of their bond, humming, vibrating, ready to explode. Kade squeezed her hand, a silent promise. "Elder Valerius!" Kade's voice boomed, amplified by their bond, shaking the very air. "You lie!" Valerius's face twisted, a mask of fury. "Silence, rogue! We dare to speak the truth!" Isla's voice rang out, clear and strong. Her Silvermoon magic pulsed around her, a visible golden aura. "The prophecy isn't a curse, it's a choice, and you've been manipulating us because you fear true balance." What followed was chaos. Valerius, his face contorted with rage, unleashed a blast of dark magic. It slammed into them. But then, Isla and Kade moved as one. Their combined power, her wild, flowing Silvermoon spirit and his grounded, unyielding Thorne strength, surged. It met Valerius's attack head-on. A dazzling explosion of golden light erupted, pushing back his darkness. "You used Liam!" Isla shouted, her voice trembling with raw pain and anger. "You set me up! You fueled this rivalry for centuries!" She felt it, clear as day, the ancient entity that had subtly influenced Valerius for decades, now recoiling from their pure combined power. It was like watching a snake shed its skin. Kade stepped forward, his eyes blazing. "This wasn't about a broken engagement. You wanted to prevent us." He pointed a finger at Liam, who stood frozen, his face pale, watching in horror. "Liam, your so-called duty was a lie. You were a pawn in his game." Liam staggered back, his eyes wide, his carefully constructed facade shattered. He looked utterly broken. Around the room, the scholarly elders like Lyra and Orion gasped. They saw the golden power pulsing from Isla and Kade. They heard the undeniable truth in their voices. They knew the prophecies. They knew Valerius's radical beliefs. And just like that, everything changed. Valerius's power faltered. The truth had found its mark. The silence roared. The reckoning. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Elder Valerius, his face pale and his power visibly diminished, was swiftly restrained by the council guards. His subtle cabal, now exposed and without their leader, crumbled like dust. The immense power of Isla and Kade's bond, a golden light that still faintly pulsed around them, silenced all dissent. They were exhausted, but triumphant. Liam, standing amidst the chaos, simply stared. His eyes, once so charming, were now vacant, filled with a deep, crushing despair. Isla approached him slowly. His scent was no longer deceptive. It was simply empty. "Liam," she said, her voice soft but firm, "you let him use you." He lifted his gaze to her, tears welling. He promised order. He said you were a danger, that the prophecy had to be stopped." His voice was a broken whisper. "I believed him. I'm sorry, Isla." Isla felt a pang of unexpected pity. He was a victim, too, in his own way, of Valerius's manipulation. "Sorry doesn't fix a fractured world, Liam," she told him. "But choosing to fix it, that might." The council sentenced Liam to exile, stripped of his pack status, a stark warning. He chose to walk away, a solitary, haunted figure. Seraphina, realizing she was just a tool in Valerius's game, also chose exile. Her anger was gone, replaced by a profound disillusionment. She left silently, without a word. The werewolf world was in shock. The bedrock of their society, the centuries-long rivalry between Thornefall and Silvermoon, was revealed as a meticulously crafted lie. The council, humbled, looked to Isla and Kade. The golden marks on their bodies pulsed with a soft, steady light, a beacon of undeniable truth. They were tired. So tired. But they were together. The Thorn-Moon Alliance. 1 year later, the scent of unity hung in the air, a sweet, fresh promise. The ancient monolith, once a site of engineered chaos, now hummed with a different kind of energy. It was a harmonious resonance of their combined power. Alpha Kade and Lunar Isla stood before it, presiding over the first joint council of the new Thorn-Moon Alliance. The council chamber, once cold and filled with fear, now felt vibrant. The path to this moment hadn't been easy. The distrust between the Silvermoon and Thornefall packs ran deep. There were countless tense meetings, endless debates. But Kade, with his grounded wisdom and strategic mind, led with unwavering patience. And Isla, with her intuitive empathy and profound understanding of the bond, helped bridge the ancient divides. They demonstrated their combined strength. When disputes arose, their synchronized movements, their shared golden aura, proved that unity wasn't weakness. It was a formidable power. "We stand here today," Kade's voice boomed, "not as two packs, but as one, the Thorn and the Moon, joined not by forced fate, but by chosen truth." Isla squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with love and pride. "Our history was a lie," she added, her voice resonating with power. "But our future is ours to write, together." Her eyes, soft but resolute, swept over the now unified wolves. She saw respect. She saw hope. The question of the prophecy, whether their future children would be a uniter or a destroyer, no longer hung over them as a threat. Instead, it stood as their ultimate mission. They would guide their lineage. They would teach them balance, because their love, born from manipulation, had defied destiny. In the quiet that followed, Kade's gaze met hers. His golden eyes, filled with profound love, reflected her own. The space between them burned. They were more than mates. They were partners, leaders, and the foundation of a new world. Their story didn't just break the rules, it shattered the lies and forged a new reality. With his scent in the air, Isla leaned into Kade's strong side, the warmth of their intertwined fingers a constant reminder. Their bones remembered him. They were home. Epilogue. 5 years later, the ancient monolith pulsed not with raw, untamed magic, but with a deep, resonant calm. Its surface, once stark, was now woven with shimmering moss and wildflowers. Isla, Luna of the Thorn-Moon Alliance, traced a hand over its cool stone. She still felt the power, yes, but it was balanced, harmonious, like her. Kade stood beside her, his warmth a constant comfort, his scent of pine and rich earth her favorite thing in the world. He was more than alpha of two bloods. He was her rock, her partner. Their golden marks, etched onto her wrist and his shoulder, no longer burned with desperate urgency. Instead, they glowed with a soft, steady light, a testament to a love forged in fire and chosen despite lies. The path to this peace hadn't been easy. Not at all. Healing centuries of engineered hatred between the Thornefall and Silvermoon packs was like trying to mend shattered glass. Every elder had a story of ancient grievance. Every young wolf, a learned suspicion. But Kade, with his unwavering patience and strategic mind, had led by example. And Isla, with her Silvermoon empathy and powerful intuition, had listened. She had shown them that unity wasn't just possible, it was stronger, because it felt like belonging. They had held countless councils here, under the moon's watchful eye. They had worked tirelessly, bridging the divides, one pack member at a time. Because their bond, the very thing Valerius had tried to destroy, became their greatest tool. It was a bridge of understanding, a testament that true strength came from connection, not control. Soon after, laughter echoed through the clearing. A small, golden-eyed girl, barely 3 years old, darted between the monoliths. She was fast, so fast. Her hair, a wild cascade of silver moonlight, bounced as she ran. Our daughter, their very own alpha of two bloods, a child of Thorne's strength and Silvermoon's spirit. She was a living symbol of their unified future. Kade's gaze followed her, a soft smile on his lips. He squeezed Isla's hand, his touch gentle. "She has your spirit," he murmured, his voice rough with emotion. "And her power. It's incredible. Balanced." Isla nodded, her heart swelling. "And your grounding," she added, thinking of the controlled power that flowed through her own veins now, thanks to Kade. She'll be a uniter. That was their mission, to guide her, to teach her, to ensure their legacy was harmony, not chaos. The weight of the prophecy, once a terrifying threat, now felt like a sacred trust. What's worse, the threat of manipulation lingered in the world, of course, but they faced it together. The werewolf world remembered Valerius. They remembered Liam. They remembered Seraphina. They remembered the destructive fear that nearly shattered them all. And because of that, the question of the prophecy no longer caused terror. Instead, it inspired hope. It was a choice they made every single day. Their love story didn't just break the rules. It proved that destiny, even one orchestrated by others, could be rewritten. And just like that, their future, bathed in moonlight, stretched out, bright and full of promise. Thank you so much for watching this video. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed what you saw, we've got a whole library of other videos packed with more great content just like this waiting for you on our channel. So, why not dive into another one right now? And hey, if you want to make sure you don't miss out on our next upload, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We'd love to have you join our community and see you in the next video. Thanks again.